Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mandy Seetaller. I'm the Community Engagement Representative for the National Child Passenger Safety Board and the Alaska Statewide CPS Coordinator. Today, it is my honor to serve as your MC and lead us on this CPS Coordinators Forum. Just as a quick reminder, please be sure to mute your audio. And if you'll take a minute to let us know where you're from and the chat box, we'd love to check it out. And if you'd like to share what the temperature is in your area, it's been a fun discussion as we're getting started. We have two segments for, quick reminder, please do not participate in this forum if you are operating a motor vehicle. The recording will be posted to cpsboard.org, CPS Coordinators Forum, and that's generally done within about 2 days, so you can catch up really quickly. Just please go ahead and disconnect now and get safely to your destination. Okay, questions about that? Everybody's on chat or on silence. So quick note about today. We're gonna have two segments to this presentation. We're gonna hear from Adele Polson, and she'll answer questions immediately after her section, and then we'll head to the next one. So welcome to our forum today. We have Adele Polson joining us to share timely information on the latest update to the National Digital Check Form version 7.0. It has been available since October 5th, and this update took place. We wanted to share the latest information with you during our time together. And then after that, we'll hear from Mike Chappell, who is coming to us via recording to share his insights into building law enforcement partnerships. Any questions you have for Mike, we can record and then we will get back to you as soon as possible. Mike just couldn't be with us today. So let's welcome Adele. Adele is a senior study director with Westat, a research firm based in Washington, D.C. She's been a transportation researcher with Westat for 24 years. And Adele, along with other Westat staff, joined the NDCF team almost 3 years ago. While she's managed many projects for Westat, she's most proud of her team's work on the NDCF and everything the program is doing to help keep children safe. Thanks for joining us, Adele.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Hopefully you guys are now seeing the screen that says NDCF version 7. Yes?
Yes, we sure are.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. Again, my name is Adele Polson. I oversee the data analysis for the National Digital Car Seat Check Form. I'm also subbing in for Jennifer Bogue, who coordinates all the field training today. And we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. We're going to be sharing an overview of the updates. On an ongoing basis, the NDCF program team meets to review all the feedback and suggestions. When Jennifer presents, Jessica presents, when we're at conferences, as well as all the feedback we receive via the website, we collect and compile all of that and look through every single suggestion and do our best to respond and make tweaks. So every October, we release these changes to the form, the apps, the dashboards, and the websites. And of course, all of these changes are driven by all of you and our users. So as soon as you visit carseatcheckform.org, you'll see that we made several updates to the landing page. On the left-hand side of the screen is the old landing page, and right under that new is the new landing page. These were all a result of feedback that we received from a state coordinator, and his suggestion was, hey, you need to put more information on your landing page for people that don't already have accounts, right? The way we had it structured before, you kind of need an account to get in and start looking around. We try to put all the really important stuff here on the landing page. That includes a link to view the national dashboard, which is a summary of all of our data. And then we also added this resource that provides guidance on creating an account, also a way to request a new password or reset your password. We have a form for program managers that explains all the different permissions and the way the program management works, as well as links to tutorial videos, user guides, and additional resources. And here's the new form, updated form version 7.0. All users should be using version 7.0 now, pretty pleased. And you should try to enter any of your version 6 forms into the web platform by November 1st. We would really appreciate that. That helps all the statisticians that work with me in processing your data. So updates by November 1st, please. The updates that we made to the form include adding the website address at the top of the form to help you remember where to go to enter this information. We moved the virtual check, research sign-off, and mock check questions later on in the form at the end. We also added a box around the caregiver section to try to help make a visual for the caregivers so they understood which portions of the forms they needed to fill out. And finally, we added a question about check to protect, and that's to identify if the vehicle recall was searched. Throughout the form, you notice we also removed all those gray boxes. Up again in that top left-hand corner, you can see where we had the gray boxes. We got feedback from people that depending on the printer settings, that sometimes those turned out really dark and made it hard to write on top of. So we got rid of those. And throughout the form, we've also provided additional hover bubbles and static language to give the user, either the technician or the person entering the data, some helpful suggestions along the way based on things that we've learned over the past year. Some specific edits to questions. For question 12, we added a way to define the recline angle misuse. It used to just be yes, no, NA. Now you can tell us if the recline was too upright or too reclined. For question 11, and that is how the car seat was installed, we moved uninstalled to the top of the list. So on those seats uninstalled on arrival saves you all from having to scroll down. And we also added a lock-off option based on your feedback. That lock-off option also appears in question 38, which asks you how the seat is installed on departure. Because the bulk of the seats that are entered into the NDCF are infant-only, rear-facing only seats, we recognized that we needed a way for technicians to identify if the car seat was tilting when installed with the seat belt. So we added this to the seat belt installation errors. So you can now report if the car seat was tilted. We simplified the vehicle information to make it easier for users to understand how to answer that question. We understand it's a little challenging. We are still working on getting good lists of vehicles, makes, models, and years so that these can all be drop-down lists. Unfortunately, the list we have now does have this breakdown between older and newer vehicles. So we've tried to streamline that and make it as clear as possible. And again, added this question about whether or not the vehicle had a recall listed. Of course, the caregiver can take an active role in this. They can go to check to protect, enter in their license plate number, and immediately see their open recalls. As I mentioned earlier, we moved the virtual check, recertification, and mock checks to the end of the form. So then when we get down to the end of the form, we've reorganized that last section. So now you have the caregiver sign off, and then we separated out the final inspection questions. With all these updates, it's also important to update your app. If you use the app on the phone, please go ahead to the App Store and update it. We made a couple of changes to the app based on a lot of feedback from you guys. We added a check form ID. Once the form is submitted in the app, you'll be able to see the check form ID. You don't have to just go to the web platform anymore for that information. This helps programs keep track if they have a separate sheet of paper where they're collecting the personal identifying information for their caregivers and link it into the system. Then you can have that check form ID in a little bit easier way to capture it and have it handy. We've also changed the order of the checks in the app. So now we've got the newer checks at the top of the list in the app. And really by that, I mean Jennifer. Jennifer spends a lot of time working on these materials and working with Ron at NSC to update this web page. But we've made many updates to the user guides, supporting documents. There have been several updates to the National Child Passenger Safety Board NDCF page, right? We have our own separate page now. And we've made a more prominent location for the data dashboards, the paper form. Try to also advertise upcoming training webinars. We've also built our resources and supporting documents to include printable documents so that those can be printed out and shared with technicians in your state and included in your clinics. And of course, We also made several updates to the dashboards. We were able to implement several requests, including some new summary charts. A lot of the feedback I received when I was presenting on the dashboards was, wow, that's really cool. I'd really love to be able to copy and paste that right into reports I need to make to my state, to my grant funders and things like that. So we were able to do that. And then we also added some easy buttons to the table tool, which automatically generates some things for you. And if you bear with me a minute, I'm going to try to close out of this. Does everybody see the dashboard now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. So the big changes are here on the child restraint misuse page. Still works the way it did before. You can look at all checks, postnatal checks, and prenatal checks. And you saw that filters all the different boards you see. But we're going to start with all checks, and we're going to look at harness misuse. So now you get your map of harness misuse. And then down below here now, we have the counts of what are the most common types of subcategories, right? So too loose is still the number one. The wrong slot use, the retainer clip, right? And of course, as always in the dashboard, if you hover over a piece of information in a chart, you get a little tool pop up that tells you there are over 6,000 checks where the harnesses were too loose. Now, in working with some of our state coordinators, we learned that, you guys like this overall misuse for the harness, manufacturer direction, you like all this information, but then it was hard for you to summarize that in any of your reports or other PowerPoints. So now we've added this chart over here on the right, which breaks this all out, summarizes all that information. And then what I think is the coolest of all of this is that we have buttons. So you can export this to Excel, and it literally, let's see if we can get this all on the one screen. No, it opened up my other screen. Sorry, it literally will just open up in Excel, and you can copy and paste it. You can do your own tabulations now. I think that's very handy. And this chart, like I was just saying, changes. So if you wanted to look at postnatal, then this chart changes, right? Or just the prenatal checks. What is our misuse rate? Right. And then for harness and for seatbelt and for tether and lower anchor, we have these nice summary charts below. These summary charts can also be downloaded easily now. And again, you just hit this and it will download as a PNG that you can drop into PowerPoint, Word documents, or anything else that you need. Same with this map. If you think this map is really handy, you can download that. Any of the maps really. Over on this page, we now have options to print and download the maps. And if I go over to my table tool, these are the easy buttons. Right now we have seats distributed up. So this is just the number of donated seats that have been sent out. Here's our overall misuse by age. That was a breakdown that someone had suggested. We can add more of these buttons to the top here. If you submit the feedback to us, we're happy to add that button. And again, now for these tables or any table you make in the table tool, you can easily export to Excel. So if we didn't want to do this, we can, I can say reset the table. It clears it and I can make my own. So I just want to see, the type of car seat by the inspection month. Let's see what kind of car seats. And I want to say, I'm just curious what we had in January, right? So I'm going to unselect all these other months and hit apply. So now I can just see January. And then I want to go make a totally separate table rather than having to pull and drag and reset. You now just have one button and it gives you a clean slate. So those are the big changes to the dashboard. But again, I think probably the coolest thing is now all of this information is easily downloadable so that you can put it into reports. I think that was the number one thing that we asked for, and our programmer Alex was able to make it happen. So we're very appreciative for that. While I have the dashboard up, happy to take any dashboard questions anybody has. Mandy, are there any dashboard questions coming in before I click back to the presentation?
I'm not seeing any, but Denise did say, wow, she's excited, and I am positively giddy. This is really, really fantastic.
Right.
Right.
Yes, we tried really hard to come up with like these nice visualizations. And then when we were talking to people, they're like, we just really need the chart. Can't you just give us the chart? Oh, it looks like Thomas has maybe a question.
I'm actually Denise Donaldson.
Yes.
Can you restate the table tool customization option?
So right here, we have these easy buttons. This is what Jennifer dubbed them, the easy buttons. So this is just seats distributed or donation seats given out. And this is overall misuse by child age. If you guys have another table that you're like, oh, I run this every month on my data and I have to set up the table tool for it every time and it's getting frustrating or taking too much time. If there are specific tables that you are running all the time in the table tool, you can email us by going to the feedback on the page and on the carseatcheckform.org, go to feedback and provide us with a suggestion and we will add that next button and that new table for you.
Thank you, Adele. And Thomas does have his hand up. He's got a question for you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I love the dashboard's awesome. The new features are great. Thank you very much. As far as that one screen before you had, it said checks analyzed, the number for each misuse that was listed.
Over
Why,
here.
why wouldn't all the checks be analyzed? I'm not quite sure I understand why.
If the harnesses are, a booster seat, if it's a seat without a harness, or if the child is not present and there was no evaluation of the harness because there wasn't a child in it. So if they have told us harness misuse and have selected not applicable, then it's not used in the analysis.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Makes sense. Anything else, Mandy?
Denise asked, for the dashboard pages, are all the downloads an option also for the agency or state?
Yes, it should be. Yes.
And Jessica, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, on all the dashboards, they should work the same, but of course you're getting different filtered data. So your map's going to look different, right? Your map should zoom to just the area where you've been doing checks and you should be able to download it, print it. Never, yes.
Perfect. And one last reminder from Jessica that you can go to carseatcheckform.org to submit feedback.
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then Tracy Kiesel had a quick note. A tab that would be helpful for us is overall misuse by seat type.
Oh, on my table tool, overall misuse by seat type. Okay, Tracy, give us a month.
Wow, look at how easy that was. That's fantastic. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
I'm making the note now. Overall
And Tracy says, sweet. Thank you.
by seat type. Okay.
And Adele, you've got one more question from Sydney. This is generating a lot of conversation. This is great stuff. Sydney.
Yeah, hi, I don't have a question about the table tool. Can we talk about 54B Moxie checks?
54B mock seat checks. Sure. Back on my PowerPoint there.
Yeah, I don't want you to switch
No.
to the next topic without at least being able to ask this question. If we were to check that, would any information we had on mock seat checks be mixed in with our state data?
No. Should not be. That should be getting pulled out.
So we won't see any of those
You can
just by checking that box.
Siri.
if it's just a mock check.
So we filled out everything in the form, just like we normally would.
Mhm.
State, not practice, everything's filled out. We did a mock check. Let's say it's at a class.
Mhm.
And then we fill everything out and then hit, was this a mock chest check? And we say yes,
Yes.
then that data will not show up in our state data.
It will not show up in your clean data dashboards. Your raw data, it will always be in your raw data file. So you can still go to the carseatcheckfarm.org and get your data, right? And you put in the dates and you can download your raw data file. It will always be in your raw data file that you can put into an Excel spreadsheet and look at, because we don't change any of that. When we produce the data dashboards that have the misuse rates and everything, we do remove training checks and mock seat checks and things like that from those, because those are the things that feed into the estimates of misuse.
Well, and that's exactly what my concern is. If I'm going to try to tell my state how many C checks we did, I'm going to use the raw data.
Correct.
You know, so if I'm concerned that if we had a whole bunch of folks checking, you know, working with folks for their 5 skill sign-offs, and we ended up with a bunch of mock C checks in there, then I've got mock data mixed in with my
Right.
real data, and that's of
Right.
concern to me. And I'm not a proponent of 54B.
Of capturing it at all.
Yeah, capturing it all. I'm not sure why you would want to capture that. And if it's mixing with my data, I'm going to ask my tech proxies and instructors to never check that box.
If you don't check that box, then it will go into your dashboard.
No, because we won't submit it. We'll if we're going to do it if we're going to do a mock check, we're going to put practice in the form if we're doing it with the
Gotcha.
digital form.
Okay.
And we're going to do it in
Okay.
a paper form and not submit it
Gotcha.
because I don't want mock data mixed in
You're
with
gonna-
my state data.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And that's, you know, we struggled with this too, like what constitutes a car sheet check, what should we be capturing? And we went around and around and decided that we want this to be as useful to all programs as possible. There were a number of programs that did want to track mock checks in their raw data, so that's why it was added. But the form provides enough flexibility to do what you're doing, Sid, and you advise your coalitions how you want it entered and how you want it handled. And yes, so then you will still get the data you need. The people who are really interested in this mock seat check data can also get it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Nope. That'll work out just fine.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, I think you said it very well, Adele, is, you know, some of the feedback that was coming in from certain programs in certain states wanted to use that for their continued tracking and knowledge of recertification purposes. And then some may not want it. So I kind of view it as choose your own adventure, what works best for your program. It's there if you want it, you don't have to use it.
Okay. And now I'm turning it over to Jessica, because where are you in your NDCF journey? And Jessica has great analogies for this, but this is kind of an opportunity to ask us questions and let us know how we can help. So, Jessica.
Thank you, Adele. And this really is for those of you who have joined the NDCF team on the Hold My Clipboard series. We kind of view it as, where is are you as a technician, where are you on your NDCF journey? And I'm asking you as a state coordinator or program manager, where are you on your NDCF journey and where do you want to be? And I live in the Detroit area of Michigan. And even though it's unbelievably cold already in my thought and theory, I need to figure out how to move south, but that just hasn't happened yet. But when I thought of this is like, where are you and where do you want to be? So I revert to the pool. So when it comes to the pool, are you on the sun deck? So you've heard about the NDCF, but you're really just trying to figure out what NDCF stands for. Like, I think we had someone call it the National Delicious Chocolate Fudge Form before. So you're on the sun deck, you've heard about it, but you're not quite sure. You're not ready to get in the pool, but you're here. So we're thankful for that. And the next analogy is, okay, you've heard about it, you're on the edge of the pool. So perhaps you've signed up for an account, but you really haven't adapted it in your state. You haven't taken it any farther than maybe signing up for a personal account as a coordinator, or you have a few technicians in your state who perhaps are using it. The next area is we refer to as the shallow end. So perhaps you haven't adopted the NDCF as a state utilization program, but you have quite a few technicians that are using it. You support the trainings. And then we have those who are perhaps on floaties. They're in the pool. They've got a lot of people in their state using it. You're starting to use it for reports. You're seeing that the transfer to the NDCF is happening. And then we have those states who are referred to as cannonballers. There's those that have made it a condition if you're using 405B funds, if you're part of our program, that you're going to be using the NDCF. You're not saying they have to use the digital form or the app. You're saying if you use the paper version, that's fine. We just need you to enter it so we can track your activities. We can track your seat distributions. We know what our misuse is. You have that whole picture for your state. So it's okay if you're on the sun deck. It's okay if you're on a floaty. It's okay if you cannonballed. We just want to throw it out. We're here to support, you know, where you are on your journey. And if you want to go deeper into the pool, we can help you do that too. And that's my pool analogy. And I tell Adele all the time that I'll use it until someone tells me to stop. So hopefully it was helpful for you. So go ahead and write in your chat where you think your state is, perhaps where you want to go, and feel free to reach out to the NDCF team, Adele, Joe, and others, and Jennifer Bogue, who are working behind the scenes, making this as a positive resource as we can for the states and the technicians out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. If we could take a quick minute to remind everyone that if you are not asking a question, can you mute your audio, please? And Thomas, it looks like you've got another question.
Yes, hi, New Hampshire. We jumped in Cannonball pretty much with Vermont as well. And
Cannonball.
it's the form that we're trying to get everyone to use, the only form. And I have a couple concerns. And it was mentioned earlier in the presentation that if somebody has something they'd like to see on the form, it can be added. And I think one of the problems is I'm trying to get people away from the paper and more online so it gets entered right away, because I find that majority of people are not bothering to enter it online. They're just keeping the paper version, which really doesn't do what the whole form's purpose was. And doesn't help us too much. But I feel like if we keep adding dots that aren't really tracked for significant purposes, but maybe for one state's interest or one coordinator's interest or whatever, it's going to continue to grow, and it's just going to turn more people off because they just leave those bubbles empty. If they, you know, they want to move on, maybe they're shorthanded, whatever their rationale is behind not entering it. It certainly isn't going to help if we keep making it longer with more questions that really don't have any national significance, safety significance, or manufacturer significance.
Well, thank you, Thomas. We appreciate your thoughts, and this might be a conversation for us to have with Adele. That might be a meeting or something that we need to set up to.
Right. I also have a second question. For coordinators, there's a link we can click on to see, because I don't have a problem harassing my techs to get them on board. If it could be made possible that maybe coordinators can get a button where they can see the techs that are currently using the form and how
Yes.
active they are.
That is something, yeah, that is something we're actively working on. We did see that suggestion. I don't know, maybe if that came directly from you or someone you work with, but we are working on that. And definitely, we don't implement every suggestion for sure. And you actually echo a lot of what Jessica says to us in our meetings when we're talking about these things. Like, you know, her question is usually to myself and the Westat team. Hey, how's this going to impact the data? How does this help the data? How does this hurt the data? And then to Jennifer and the rest of the team, Joe, who does a lot of the technical support for this program, you know, how many people are asking about this? Is it one particular coalition or is it many? And we do try to balance. The goal is to always, the goal is to always keep it on that 8.5 by 11 form. So that does kind of keep us from going too far. And right. So we do consider those things. And certainly we would take feedback if there's questions and things you think that could be removed. We're happy to consider that as well.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. What great questions. Anybody else before we move on? All right. Well, next we have Mike Chappell. Mike is the current project coordinator at the Injury Prevention Center of Rhode Island Hospital in partnership with Safe Kids Rhode Island. He is retired South Kingstown police officer and a past National Child Passenger Safety Board member, having the position of CPS Advocate from 2018 to 2021. Mike was unable to be with us today, but was kind enough to send us a recording of his insights into building CPS partnerships with law enforcement agencies in your community. Please enter your questions in the chat box, and we will make sure that we get those questions to him and then get the information returned to you just as quickly as possible. And I'll turn it over to Jessica to start that recording. This may take just a quick second.
Thank you, everyone. As I bumble through this, we have a recording, which I'm going to switch to. And again, if you have any questions, please throw it in the chat and we'll make sure to get the questions that we can't answer to either Mike or Justin Young, who is the public service law enforcement representative on the board. So we also want to give you a little heads up with this recording. If you're having trouble hearing, go ahead and turn your volume up and see if that helps. But here we go. Bear with me, and I'm going to do some screen sharing, stopping and starting all over again. Mike's video is about 15 minutes, just to let you know. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Can you guys see?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, here we go. Gonna start the recording. And again, if you're having trouble hearing, my volume's all the way up. If you might need to turn yours up too. So apologies ahead of time, but here we go.
For coming to my webinar. My name is Mike Chappell. I am the project coordinator, Injury Prevention Center, Rhode Island Hospital. Also Safe Kids Rhode Island. I'm a retired South Kingstown police officer and a past NCPSB member. I was a CPS advocate from 2018 to 2021. Today we're going to talk about law enforcement engagement in the child passenger safety field. So getting certified, how did we become certified? Were you told you have to go or voluntold? Is it part of your division that you're involved in? Or was it by choice? You approached a supervisor and said, I want to go to this training. Some departments actually require you to become a CPS upon completion of a police academy. So there are many different ways that we all get involved in the CPS world. And how do we stay engaged once we are certified? As we all know, you have 2 years to recertify within the parameters of the field. How engaged are you in the certification? Is it something that you have to continue to do because of the division you're in? Do you do it because you just love doing it? Do you partner with other agencies and work as a team? Is it, again, a choice? So some techs will develop a passion for this over time, like I did. I was certified back in 2002, and it was something that I just grabbed onto and I never let go. And I've been doing it for almost 21 years. And it's something that I felt I needed to do. And there will be other techs, maybe some listening today, who are like, yes, that's me. I just love doing this. It's something I want to do. And I've realized the importance of being a technician and helping to keep children safe while they're passengers in vehicles. Sometimes, though, you want to be so involved, but you don't have the support. For admin, you need to have admin support. If you don't have administrative support at all, it becomes very difficult to do this. Depending on the structure of a police department, it will dictate your level of support. For instance, there will be supervisors who will get on the radio when you're doing an installation in the parking lot of your police station, and you're right in the middle of it, and you know that you've got at least another 10 or 15 minutes to go, and there's a call for service in your area. and that supervisor gets on the radio and says to you, you need to clear, you need to go handle your call, no one else is handling it for you. Well, you can't just stop in the middle of an install and leave a caregiver standing there with a seat on a parking lot and a child running around the car. You need to get that install done. So the supervisors need to be made aware, once you become a technician, that once you're involved in a seat install, you must continue that seat install until you are done, and that you're not going to cut corners. You're not going to omit information for that caregiver. You're going to stay involved in it. And if it's a serious call of service, I am sure, as in my past, they will send another officer to that call. And when you arrive, you can take the lead at that point. But getting that car seat installed and that child properly fit in that car seat is paramount when you start. You must finish it. So you need to let your admin know this, your supervisors, whether it's a sergeant, corporal, lieutenant, captain, it doesn't matter. They need to understand what's involved in a car seat install. Also with administration, is there funding for checkpoints outside of what you might do on regular patrol? Will admin put in for a grant to help pay for that overtime? Or do you do it just when you're on patrol, which again, you run into the problems of handling calls for service. If the child passenger safety technician gets promoted or leaves the division they're in, can they stay certified? If you're really into it and you still want to continue to be a tech, but it's not part of your division or your assignment anymore, how do you stay involved? You have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate because it's something you want to do. In my years on the job, I had to advocate many times with superiors that this was important to me and that I wanted to continue doing it. And it's a conversation that needs to be had. If you just assume that they're going to let you keep doing it, then you might run into that roadblock from admin. So advocate for yourself, because what you're doing is a very important task. Smaller departments do sometimes struggle with how they're going to manage a program if there's a need for it. It goes back again to admin support. I had, again, some supervisors who were supportive and some who were not. In a small department, maybe the manpower is not there to allow the tech to do installs on a regular basis. If you want to do this and you're passionate about it, come up with a game plan. Do a little strategic planning on how you're going to have your program run. And this goes for rural departments. It goes for big departments. It doesn't matter. If it's something that you're passionate about and you want to make a difference, then you need to come up with a game plan. If you're there just to do it because it's your division, that's fine as well, but you still need to decide how you're going to do it. For rural departments, you know, perhaps the closest instructor is 60, 100 miles away from you. So you were able to get certified. Your department sent you to a class. Now you need to recertify in that 2-year period. You need to have your seats checked. You need to do a community event. The CEUs, of course, can be done on your own time. But how do you get to an event when the closest instructor is 100 miles away to sign off on your seats? Yes, you were able to do your seat checks through the mock component. However, you still have to get there. Is there travel involved? Are you going to get paid overtime for being gone for 4 hours or for a checkpoint, or 2 hours for a checkpoint, and maybe an hour to 2 hours travel time in between? Everyone has their lives they also have to lead, but if you want to stay certified, how do you do that in a small department? I think having a game plan and putting it forward with your superiors is a great way to do it. Reach out to an instructor that you know might be far away and say, hey, when are you doing your next checkpoint? Can I come along? I need to pre-plan with my bosses. Or are you able to come down to my town, my city, and can you help me out? They might be able to travel as well. Maybe they have a little bit more leeway with their travel schedules because they have an instructor status than just you as a technician. So again, it's collaborating and reaching out and making connections. One of the other things that we have to deal with as technicians is burnout. Burnout happens. One of the best techs I had that I worked with in my department, he did it for a very long time with me. He was phenomenal at what he did, but he finally just hit a point where he was like, Mike, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to recertify at the end of this period. I don't want to do it anymore. The physical part of it was just getting to be a bit much. just the wear and tear on the body, as most of us do. We wear vests, we wear gun belts. There's a lot of extra weight, and we're crawling around in cars. Sometimes we're in SUVs, and sometimes we're in little small, two-door cars where it's hard to get into the car without all that gear on. And now you're trying to squeeze in someone's car, and you're trying not to ruin the car. You don't want to rip the seats. You don't want to chip the paint. And it just becomes a lot of wear and tear on your body. Also, depending on your climate. Again, in Rhode Island, our summers can get into the 90s with 100% humidity. And our winters, it's below freezing. Car seats need to be installed, and children need to be checked year round. So to have to deal with the extreme weathers can also be tough as well. You're in your patrol unit, you're driving around your area, you're doing a thing, and you call for a car seat check, and you look at the temperature, and it's 95 degrees. And the instant you step outside your vehicle, you're going to start to break out in a sweat, even before you touch the car seat. Conversely, the cold days, your fingers are going to be curled up and hard to move them by the time you're done with the install, because you can't wear gloves and install a car seat, at least not easily. So there are those environment factors also that sometimes lead to burnout. How do you maybe deal with how your car seats are done? Do you do it if you're working and you're available, you do the car seat check, or is it appointment only? Perhaps maybe tweaking the way your department does it might also help with your burnout rate. If you're doing them all the time, 8 hours a day, you're always available to maybe do one, and maybe getting 3 or 4 a day, and it's starting to wear and tear on you, maybe it's time to talk to your person in charge of your program and say, hey, I want to do appointments only. Maybe they'll allow you to take 2 hours out of your patrol time, if the staffing allows, to do just car seat checks. Or maybe there's that grant money that's available where you can then do a checkpoint after hours on days that work for you. These are just some ideas that might help you to not hit that burnout point, because it does happen. We all can't do it forever, but if you're passionate about it and you want to continue to do it, you've got to make sure that it works for you as well. Establishing new partnerships, very important. I'm very fortunate, having been in Rhode Island, being the smallest state, that basically there's a tech, an instructor, Safe Kids Rhode Island, hospitals, everything's just a stone's throw away. You can go from one end of my state to the other in about 45 minutes. So for us to find a partner is really easy, but in bigger states with bigger towns, bigger cities, metropolitan areas, that's not always an easy task. So what I would say is start at very grassroots level. In my town, I partnered up with every daycare in town. There were 4 of them. I introduced myself. I said, this is what I want to do for your clientele. I want to have a private checkpoint, and I want to work with your kiddos and your parents. And we're going to bring technicians, and we're going to work with these parents, and we're going to get these car seats checked properly, make sure the children are safe when they leave. So that led to a partnership with other agencies in town, where they're like, hey, we heard that you're doing this. Can you do one for us? Mom and dad groups, schools. Can you come to a field day? Can you do seat checks, doing it here and there, open houses? So it did explode after just simply wanting to help out the daycares. It became more and more prevalent that we had a program that was out there in the community. So start with something small, partner with a daycare, and then let that happen. There might be a caregiver in that daycare who works at the local hospital, who maybe is involved in injury prevention, who sees the great work that you just did and wants to bring you in to the hospital and partner with their injury prevention center so that you can be involved in that. Once that gains traction, then you can expand the program, and then you can get more people involved. And then you will be known as someone who does some great work within the community. As law enforcement, you are under the microscope with everything you do. However, when someone comes in for a car seat, they want your help. They are coming to you. You're not issuing them a ticket. You're not writing a ticket for speeding. You're not out there enforcing any traffic violations. You are there to make sure that their child is safe. They want your help. So it is a great positive community event when you are doing that for a caregiver, because they're coming to you. Conversely, on car stops, I've done many of car seat installs and checks on car stops where I've dealt with a caregiver. I can see that the seat is not installed properly, and I'll work with them right there on the spot, or we'll go to a safe location to make sure that we can do this. It's a positive interaction, and I cannot stress that enough. In this environment that police officers are working in right now, that any positive interaction you can have with the community is really important, and it's good for you and it's good for your department. Law enforcement specific communication. It's important to reach out to your state leaders that partner with Safe Kids Worldwide. Find out who they are, see how they can advocate for you and your department. If you reach out to them and say, I want to do more, they're going to do that. They're going to work with you, and they're going to help maybe find funding. Who knows? Maybe they can put you in contact with someone else who has an established program, and you can then piggyback onto them, or you can mimic what they do because it's a successful program. Lessons I've learned over the 20 plus years I've been a tech and as well as a police officer is that not everyone will be a CPST forever. There is that point where you just aren't going to do it anymore, and that's okay. But while you're doing it, it's important to give it 100% because you have children's lives that you are making sure that they're safe when they get into a car and they travel. And that's a great responsibility as a CPS, but it's a responsibility that you want to do. And that's why you've taken on the task of becoming a certified tech. Remember, the support's not always going to be there, and conversely, funding is not always going to be there. You're going to have to work within the parameters of your police department. Chiefs come and go. You're going to have a new boss. That lieutenant who supported you is retiring. The sergeant coming up who's getting promoted may not be big into CPST, may think it's a waste of time, that you should be out there writing tickets and handling accidents, and they may not support you. Advocate for yourself. Again, as I had said earlier, advocate for yourself that you feel it's an important part. Show them it's important. Show them all the work that you've done. Show them the work that your technicians in your department have done, how many seats you've checked in a year, how many children you've made safer because of that. I think if you do that and you just open up a good line of communication, then I think you can have a successful program. I want to thank you for all the hard work that everyone does. You do make a difference. It is a positive task that you're doing with the community, and I want you to keep up the great job that you do and stay safe out there. Thank you for your time.
Wow, I wish he was here so I could say thank you. That was great. I'm gonna have to get in touch with Mike and see if maybe he can create a little checklist for us. There's a lot of stuff that I could use for my local police department to try to help them understand how important it is and how it can work. I think that would be a great partnership. If you have questions, please let me know. I'll pass them along to Mike. He is just the best guy and would love to share with you and answer your questions or have a private conversation. He's just been amazing. I'm so glad we got to know him. I'd like to share with you the upcoming webinars. Again, the CPS board is trying to make sure that there is constantly new content for you. These webinars are fantastic. They have been such fun to watch and to learn this year. And as a reminder, the online only option for recertification is going to end in December. So if you have the time, you can get 2 more webinars in and use them for your recertification. If not, they're just regular recertification going forward. Those can be found at cpsboard.org. I'm going to sidebar for a quick minute and address Sydney's question. The biggest problem we are having is police departments are short-staffed and have little time for CPS. You know, Sid, us too. And I would imagine that that's a recurring theme for all of us. And in fact, for all of us, I think that we're all short-staffed. We're all looking for a little extra help. We're looking for some more hands to get the work done. So I hope that tide changes and we all get a little bit more help to have CPS in our communities. These webinars are all recorded and posted to cpsboard.org/recertification, generally in 1 to 2 business days. Jessica, did you want to give a quick blurb for the Hold My Clipboard series?
I realized I was off mute. I panicked for a minute. I'm like, I can't talk. Yeah, in that same note that these are available on cpsboard.org/Hold webinars. We hold a discussion series every month. Jennifer Bogue, the field training manager of the NDCF program, leads these. And we just have an open discussion, open dialogue with technicians, with program managers, from state coordinators, anyone who wants to join, to kind of go through that analogy of the NDCF pool from the floaties to the cannonballers to the wherever you would like to be. So those are available, and to sign up online. We have the November and December dates on. It's really informal conversation. It's not a training. It's not a specific, how you do this, how you do that. It's people gather together to talk about ideas, what's been successful, where there's stuck points, to encourage each other, and also to figure maybe problem solve together some issues that they're finding. We have a special Hold My Clipboard for December. If you'd like to sign up, we have some presenters who were supposed to do a session at Kids in Motion, but due to a gas leak that was happening at the hotel, and a bunch of us being in safety, we're very quickly to evacuate along with the orders. So we have some presenters that were going to be a part of that, join us for the December edition. So that is the first picture there, is thanks to Denise Donaldson. It's just how we used to keep track of what we did, right? Paper scratches and notes and sticky pages everywhere, trying to figure out how we could show our work, to the transition to the NDCF, where it's nicely packaged from our partners on the team. Thank you, Adele in Tennessee Tech and Westat. And I wanted to thank Adele again for joining us this morning, this afternoon, thinking it was really important to let you as state coordinators know of the updates, as it is very timely since it just happened. That's all I got, Mandy.
Hey, it's some really great stuff. I'm so excited about the NDCF downloads. That's going to be fantastic. We hope that you will join us on December 7th. We're going to be talking about the hybrid CPS certification course. I'm really excited. We're going to hear from instructors that have actually taught it. What happened? How'd it go? Challenges. It's going to be great. We're also going to spend a little bit of time talking about the new school bus curriculum. In January, we will talk about CPS and emergency vehicles, information you can use. And we're going to have our topics for the February and March. They'll be able to announce those in December. Please remember that we are here for you. If there's a topic you'd like for us to discuss, or something that's happening in your state, or something that you would like to present, this forum is to share information with you and what can be most useful. So please email those topics. If you have any questions about the topics we've covered today, we would love to have some more one-on-one discussions. We are here to help you. We are here to make sure that this is useful for you. So please feel free to reach out to us. We are finished a little bit early, so I would invite those board members that have joined us today, if you'd like to stick around for a little bit, we can take a little bit of time to chat and catch up with some of you that have additional questions. But thank you for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you soon.